I think that the most important element is a good story, meaning that a good story in the sense that the composer really has something to say and he wants to say something, whatever. I mean, it can be, I mean, the range, I mean, you look at the history of opera, the range is enormous. But in the end, it's really, do you have a story to tell? And then, to go a bit further, do you have the ability to set it in music and to make it happen theatrically, to make it work on a stage? I believe great art translates into different cultural backgrounds. Like you don't have to be Dutch to love Rembrandt, or you don't have to be Spanish to love Picasso. You also don't have to be Japanese to love Kabuki. And I think that's our chance here, that we can really spread out into other cultural backgrounds and with our art form, which is strong and relevant and really has something to say to people and talks about people's life stories, and that's a chance. And it might also help us to identify some kind of Canadian subjects for new operas, which I believe will be distinctly different from what a Western European composer might have come up with. Immigration evidently is an interesting subject. I mean, the point with telling stories in opera is that there have to be a few different levels. I mean, there's always what I call the plot level, and then ideally you have a few layers underneath the plot level that really go much, much deeper than just telling a story in a precise historical context, but really something that has a more general message about humanity, if you want. And I've been talking to a lot of people what actually might be that Canadian story that we would have to tell. And another great subject for opera, of course, is mythology. So, and this country has kind of a double mythology, if you want. There's the First Nation mythology, but there's also a much more modern mythology of populating this country with a different kind of people. So I think there are a few really interesting subjects that we can explore, that we could explore, but we have to be very careful to tell these stories in a way that they're relevant to a broad audience, maybe even to an audience even though it originates here, it's really relevant to an audience all over the world. That we can find a way to tell a story that's distinctly born here, but still has a message that goes much, much, much further.